Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, next on the agenda, we'd like to resume consideration of proposed Senate Resolution number 256. I so move, Mr. President.
Is there any objection? Hearing none. Proposed Senate Resolution number 256 is in order.
May we recognize the distinguished colleague, Senator Francis Kiko Pangilinan, to sponsor and to interpolate the distinguished colleague from Tarlac and Pampanga, Senator Rodante Marcoleta.
Senator Francis Pangilinan is recognized, and to interpolate, Senator Rodante Marcoleta.
Thank you, Mr. President. We are ready to respond to the questions and the interpellation of the good senator, my fellow Kapampangan, my kabalin, Senator Marcoleta.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to thank my colleague from the gentleman from Pampanga and Quezon City for having readily accepted questions from this representation. Mr. President, in the sponsorship speech of the Honorable Senator from Pampanga and Quezon City, he said that the resolution will signal our resolve to prevent China from claiming 500,000 square kilometers of our exclusive economic zone. I'd like to ask the gentleman, Mr. President, where did he get his data of 500,000 square kilometers?
Yes, Mr. President, the data was taken from the computations based on the Philippines 200 nautical miles exclusive economic zone, Mr. President, and juxtaposed with the claim of China in the 10-dash line, wherein about 90% of the West Philippine Sea, South China Sea, is being claimed by them.
Mr. President, is the gentleman aware that there is a post from the National Security Council of the Philippines saying that our West Philippine Sea is approximately 381,000 square kilometers?
300,000 square kilometers, Mr. President. Are they referring to our exclusive economic zone or our territorial sea, or maybe be clarified?
Our exclusive economic zone with respect to the West Philippine Sea, Mr. President.
Mr. President, I'd like to clarify. I'd like to be clarified rather, because the data that was provided us by the advisors to the Philippine delegation to the Hague, the International Arbitral Tribunal, provided the amount of approximately about 500,000 square kilometers. So we will have to clarify that. We would like to be clarified, Mr. President, as to the data. But having said that, assuming it's 345,000 square kilometers, that is still double, pretty much, or almost more than, or close to double, our land mass. In other words, it is a huge amount of exclusive economic zone being claimed by China. That we have sovereign rights over our territorial sea, as well as we have exclusive rights over our exclusive economic zone, which includes, as the gentleman has mentioned, at least from his data, 360,000 plus square kilometers. Mas malaki pa sa ating lupain. Kaya hindi maaari nating hayaan na lamang na aangkinin at ng ibang bansa, lalo na ang China.
Mr. President, I'm making this clarification because I would like to believe that the resolution is particularly related to our claim in the South China Sea, part of which is now being called the West Philippine Sea. According to the National Security Council, our exclusive economic zone in relation to that is only 381,000 square kilometers. And that is the principal interest in relation to the sponsorship speech in connection with the resolution under consideration, Mr. President. I would like to correct that because the 500,000 does not exist, Mr. President. Because, as I will discuss later, in Magaliano versus Ermita, this is a jurisprudence that was penned in relation to the conflicting maritime area in Republic Act 3046 and Republic Act 9522. Our Supreme Court had the opportunity, Mr. President, of adjudicating that our total exclusive economic zone, not only in the West Philippine Sea but in the other rest of the world, is only 382,669. This is already in the jurisprudence, Mr. President.
Thank you for that, Mr. President. We are currently securing the information that was relayed to us by Justice Carpio, and therefore, assuming for the sake of argument that it is 345,000 square kilometers, it does not remove the fact that that is a huge amount of our economic zone that is being aggressively taken over by China.
The only reason, Mr. President, that I'm trying to specify the exact area of our exclusive economic zone, because the next question is, would the Honorable Senator agree that in law, a claim to land or waters must be defined by metes and bounds?
Mr. President, we, with the indulgence of the good senator, we already have an arbitrary ruling in our favor. So the metes and bounds is no longer debatable. The arbitral ruling has awarded the Philippines and recognized our claim vis-a-vis China. It has rejected China's 9-line, 10-line, 9-line claim and has upheld the Philippines' position that what China is doing within the exclusive economic zone of the Philippines is illegal. And therefore, the debate as to whether there are metes and bounds is moot. We can debate until kingdom come, but that will not change the arbitral ruling in our favor, Mr. President.
That is not entirely correct, Mr. President, and I beg to disagree. The reason why I'm asking the gentleman for the metes and bounds to our claim on our maritime rights is because until today, I would like to believe that there has not been any specific computation or coordinates of the West Philippine Sea. I'd like to ask if is the limit of our exclusive economic zone is specifically the 200 nautical miles from our archipelagic baseline, or is it provided under Administrative Order number 29, the westernmost boundary of the Calayan Island Group, as defined under Presidential Decree 5096, or is it defined under Republic Act 9522 of 2009, or Republic Act number 12064 of 2024? The question, Mr. President, is very significant because we would like to specifically determine the extent of our West Philippine Sea. Because if we are unable to do that, baka mahirapan po tayong ipagtanggol hanggang saan ang sa atin. So can we at least have an answer?
Mr. President, hindi na natin kailangang ipagtanggol ang nasa atin. Napagpasahan na ng International Arbitral Tribunal. There is nothing to defend. It has been resolved in our favor. What we have to now defend and uphold is the ruling.
Mr. President, I think the gentleman from Pampanga and Quezon City is looking at the arbitral award as it is. I'm not saying that, of course, we won the EEZ, but it is still incumbent for our country, Mr. President, to define our West Philippine Sea. Because until now, as we will discuss later with the indulgence of the gentleman, we need to look at the coordinates, Mr. President. I'm only asking whether the basis of the West Philippine Sea is the 200 nautical miles from the archipelagic baselines. Because as the defense establishment say it, Mr. President, it is the approximation of our exclusive economic zone. Our exclusive economic zone is 200 nautical miles from our archipelagic baseline. So can we assume that, are we proceeding from there? Or are we defining the extent of our WPS from executive, our Administrative Order number 29, Presidential Decree 1596, Republic Act 9522, o Republic Act 12064? Kasi kailangan po natin ma-define muna, Mr. President. Totoo po na ang arbitral award, in-invalidate po yung 9-dash line. Tama po yun. Pero hanggang doon lang, hindi naman sinabi ng arbitral award kung hanggang saan ang hangganan ng ating West Philippine Sea. That's why I am asking the gentleman kung alam po niya kung saan tayo magsisimula para sa ganon, i-determine natin, i-ascertain natin ang extent ng ating West Philippine Sea.
Yes, if I may reiterate, Mr. President, we see the point being raised by Senator Marcoleta. He mentioned Administrative Order Number 29, which defines the West Philippine Sea. It was issued in 2012. On the other hand, in addition, we have the Philippine Maritime Zones Act, or Republic Act Number 12064, enacted in 2024. These are government records that recognize the West Philippine Sea in official documents and under the UNCLOS, which grants the Philippines the EEZ extending to up to 200 nautical miles from its coastline. This is the law. There is an administrative order, and of course there is UNCLOS. It is the position of this representation, Mr. President, that all three, UNCLOS, Administrative Order Number 29, issued in 2012, and Republic Act 12064, enacted in 2024, are sufficient to be able to establish our exclusive economic zone as well as our territorial sea, Mr. President.
So, Mr. President, if the answer is that Administrative Order Number 29, which is the westernmost boundary of the Calayan Island Group, as defined under Presidential Decree 1596, is the very source of our determination of the West Philippine Sea.
Together with, Mr. President, the Philippine Maritime Zones Act, taken in conjunction with. So it's the AO 29 as well as RA 12064 and finally UNCLOS.
Yes, Mr. President, isa-isa lang natin. Doon muna tayo sa Administrative Order Number 29, which confirmed Presidential Decree 1596. Mr. President, under PD 1596, President Marcos Sr. drew boundaries around certain features of these Spratly Island and called the enclosed area as Calayan Island Group. At that time, there was no exclusive economic zone yet under the UNCLOS. However, is the Honorable Senator aware that that in 2016, the South China Sea Arbitral Tribunal declared the boundaries of the Calayan Island Group as contrary to the UN Convention of the Law of the Sea?
Well, Mr. President, I'm not familiar with the particular findings, but that is, to me, again, immaterial in the context of the award of the International Tribunal.
That will not be immaterial, Mr. President, with all due respect. Kasi nga po talagang sinisino natin, dinidetermine natin. Kung gagamitin po natin yung Presidential Decree 1596, sabi po ng Arbitral Tribunal, contrary po yun sa UN Convention of the Law of the Sea. Basahin po ninyo yung Arbitral Award. Nandun po yun sa paragraphs 573 to paragraphs 576. Sabi po niya, China and the Philippines has no right to enclose the Spratly Islands with the system of archipelagic or strait baselines, as though there is a single group islands or an offshore archipelago. Yun po yung sinabi. Kaya nga po, I am pointing this out, hindi natin magagamit yung 1596, not even Administrative Order 29. Kung sasabihin naman po natin, Mr. President, yung 9522 na banggit nila, is the Honorable Senator aware that Republic Act 9522 merely defined the Philippine archipelagic baseline from which to measure the territorial sea, exclusive economic zone, and continental shelf. Yun lang po ang ginawa ng 9522. Wala po siyang kinalaman in the determination of the exact area of the West Philippine Sea. Na-define lang po yung mga baselines natin para doon natin kwentahin yung ating territorial sea, yung ating exclusive economic zone, at saka yung ating continental shelf. Alam natin, ang EEZ at saka continental shelf, 200 nautical miles from the baseline. Territorial sea is 12 nautical miles from the baseline. Ngayon po, Mr. President, kung halimbawa ay babanggitin natin ang Republic Act 12064, ito po yung 2024 law, ang may problema po ito Section 2 of Republic Act number 12064 defines the West Philippine Sea as follows. The maritime zones of the Philippines on the western side of the Philippine archipelago, including the Luzon Sea and the territorial seas of Bajo de Masinloc and the maritime features of the Calayan Island Group, shall collectively called the West Philippine Sea. Ano pong problema nito, Mr. President, Your Honor? Based on that definition, would the Honorable Senator agree that the westernmost limits has two elements? Yung 200 nautical mile limit of the Philippine Exclusive Economic Zone and Continental Shelf, and the 12 nautical limit of the enclave territorial sea of high tide elevations of Calayan Island Group, including those outside the Philippines Exclusive Economic Zone. Hindi rin po natin magagamit yung 200 nautical mile limit, Mr. President. Bakit po? Alam po ba ng ating honorable gentleman from Pampanga and Quezon City na pag ginamit po natin yung West Philippine Sea na 200 nautical mile limit ng ating Exclusive Economic Zone, 17 features po ng Calayan Island Group ang mawawala sapagkat wala po siya. Hindi siya na-enclose ng 200 nautical miles. Alam din po ba ng ating honorable senator that four of those features would fall outside the definition of the West Philippine Sea as occupied by the Philippines. Ito pong apat na ito ay okupado na ng ating bansa. Ngunit wala po siya sa 200 nautical miles Katulad po ng Pag-asa na tinatawag na Tito Island. It's 227 nautical miles to Palawan. Parola or Northeast K, 240.2 nautical miles to Palawan.
I don't see the...
Kota or Laita Island is 207 nautical miles to Palawan. And Lakiam K, 203.7 nautical miles to Palawan. Are you aware, Mr. President, that these features are separated by high seas? Ito po ang problema Kaya po nagiging importante na kailangan po natin munang pag-aralan hanggang saan eksakto po ang coordinates ba ng ating West Philippine Sea. Dito po sa binabanggit nating mga batas sa ngayon, kung titingnan natin, hindi po natin sila magagamit, Mr. President. Kaya napakahirap po ngayon nating sagupain yung mga pananaw na parang may nag-aangkin ng atin pero hindi pa natin ma-define kung ano talaga yung atin. Kaya po dito ako nagsisimula, Mr. President.
Mr. President, if I may be allowed, again, I don't see the point. Are we trying to say here that the arbitral ruling was erroneous, and therefore we should stop claiming what was awarded us? I don't see the logic, Mr. President. We were awarded by the arbitral tribunal. It is ours. Now, is the gentleman saying the tribunal was mistaken, and therefore what was awarded to us should not have been awarded to us because of these problematic, well, at least from the point of view of the good senator, problematic definition of what the West Philippine Sea is? I beg to disagree, Mr. President. Besides, the arbitral ruling did not touch on the issues being raised today by the good senator. And even if it did, assuming it did, hypothetically, we were still awarded, and we were our claim and our rights were recognized, and China's rights were rejected. Are we saying here now, Mr. President, that we have to go back to the arbitral ruling, to the tribunal, present a new definition of what constitutes West Philippine Sea, so that they can amend or they can set aside the award? Please, I would appreciate being clarified.
Let me clarify, Mr. President. Are we getting the impression that the West Philippine Sea was awarded to us by the arbitral tribunal on a silver platter? Sinabi po niya kung nasaan yung ating mga coordinates?
Well, Mr. President,
tayo po ay mayroong entitlement sa 200...
Again, Mr. President, assuming that these have to be defined, I think we can define that by Philippine law. Assuming, I'm without conceding that there is no definition, because we believe it has been properly defined, and the maritime base. Oh, we were not in the Senate then, but
both of you were not the Senate. We already discussed it. He had the big billboard. It was, he had the, yeah, Mr. President, yeah, Mr. President.
The majority leader.
With indulgence to those who were not
With the
here.
permission of
Yes, with the permission of the two gentlemen.
Senators Pangilinan and Rodante.
Yes, for the indulgence of our colleagues who were not here at the 19th Congress, namely Senator Pangilinan, yourself, Mr. President Pro Tempore, the Senate President, and Senator Marcoleta. We had a long discussion on the floor approving the baseline, Philippine Baseline Maritime Zones Act. Dalawang batas yung pinasa ni Senator Tolentino, who was also the majority leader at the time. And I can clearly recall he would always perform his explanation on the middle podium with a blackboard, whiteboard rather, with a map. Pinapakita niya, pure like a teacher, like a professor, showing the map of the Philippines and what it covers. So meron na po tayong approved and signed by the President a Republic Act on these two measures. It was the Philippine Baseline Law and the Philippine Archipelagic Sea Lanes. So maybe the two gentlemen can look into these two laws to see the exact coordinates that we approved as a law, as laws. This is Republic Act number 12065 and 12064.
With the permission of the three gentlemen, the Senate President is recognized.
With the permission of the gentlemen, because this will be an interjection, just not really to join the conundrum, but Mr. President, may I ask a question? Yung ban China, meron silang coordinates? Yung 9-dash line nila?
Wala.
Wala eh. Tayo nga may baseline eh. May baseline, 10-dash line na. Oh, may coordinates ba? Wala eh. Tayo nga may baseline survey law eh. Sila wala eh. Kung ano mangkinin kanila eh. So I want to find out where are the coordinates of China in the West Philippine Sea.
Mr. President, may I request that pakiano nyo ngayong number 3?
Mr. President, while we're doing some administrative matters, just for the record, because earlier our data or our assertion that about 500,000 square kilometers of our exclusive economic zone and territorial sea and sovereign waters is being claimed. This was a lecture by retired Supreme Court Justice Carpio in his paper, West Philippine Sea Lecture, in the Philippine Social Science Council, hosted it February 2016. And I quote his, for the Philippines, what is at stake in the South China Sea are, number one, about 80% of its EEZ rather, comprising 381,000 square kilometers of maritime space, including the entire Reed Bank and part of the Malampaya gas field. And number two, 100% of its exclusive continental shelf, estimated at over 150,000 square kilometers of maritime space. Either the Philippines keeps this, and I quote, maritime entitlements, or we lose them to China, according to the retired justice. And he added, effectively, China's 9-dash line claim encroaches on over 531,000 square kilometers of Philippine EEZ and continental shelf, including all the fishery, oil, gas, and mineral resources found within this vast area, which is larger than the total land area of the Philippines. This Chinese aggression, according to Chief former Justice Carpio, is the gravest external threat to the Philippines since World War II.
Mr. President, ang binanggit niya kanina ay pinagsama-sama po niya yung exclusive economic zone at saka yung continental shelf. Talaga po nga abot kayo ng 500,000 square kilometers. Ang pinag-uusapan po natin, exclusive economic zone lang. Kaya po tayo nakukumpyos. Kanina po tinatanong kung merong coordinates ang China. Ayan po yung mapa ng China. Makikita po ninyo yung 6.1. Kapag yan po ay tiningnan ninyo at pinag-aralan po ninyo yan po ay nakatala doon sa International Hieroglyphics Organization or S23. Lahat po ng coordinates nandyan. Kaya nga po pinoproblema natin, hanggang ngayon, wala pa po tayong ganyan. Sana man lang yung West Philippine Sea, kapag ka lahat po ng kailangan ng United Nations, kasi bago po tayo makapagpatala ng ating sariling pangalan ng dagat, katulad ng West Philippine Sea, hindi lamang po declaration ang kailangan natin eh. Nagdi-declare tayo ng 200 nautical miles. Hindi naman po tayo nagdi-deposit ng mapa na may coordinates doon sa United Nations. Wala pong mangyayari. Yun po yung proseso eh. Tingnan po ninyo yan, 6.1, yan po yung South China Sea. Hindi po ninyo makikita ang West Philippine Sea. Kaya po tayo nagtatalo dahil yung ating West Philippine Sea, kailanman hindi mag-a-appear dyan hanggat hindi po nagagawa ni Commodore Tariela yung dapat niyang gawin. Imbes na gawa na siya ng gawa ng caricature, dapat mag-submit na siya nung mga coordinates na kailangan po para ngayon makapagpatala tayo ng sarili nating pangalan ng dagat. Ito nga po kaya ako kahit napakahirap, ay gusto nating pag-aralang mabuti kasi dito po nagkakaroon ng hindi pagkakaunawaan. Akala natin may nangunguha ng saang-ganang atin, samantalang yung saganang atin, hindi pa naman natin alam kung hanggang saan ba siya. Ang maganda sana, yung talagang exact coordinates, makukuha natin. Pero paano po natin magagawa, Mr. President? Ino-occupy natin, for example, yung munisipyo ng Pag-asa. Labas yun sa ating exclusive economic zone. Paano natin guguhitan yun halimbawa? Labas sa ating exclusive economic zone, samantalang yung Pag-asa, nandun sa high seas. Hindi po pwede mangyayari, Mr. President, because that is violative of the UNCLOS. Hindi po tayo pwedeng tumahak sa high seas. At magliliprag po siya from the exclusive economic zone para enclose niya lamang, for example, yung Parola, yung Tito, yung sinabi nating 4 kanina na bahagi na inoccupy ng ating bansa, ngunit labas po ng exclusive economic zone. Paano ngayon yun? Eh di kapag ka sinabi natin, we were awarded our exclusive economic zone, o umalis na po tayo doon sa mga features na inoccupy natin ngayon, simply because they are not enclosed by the West Philippine Sea na binabanggit natin. Kaya po ako nagsisimula diyan, Mr. President. Hindi po totoo na como sinabi ng arbitral award. Wala yung 9-dash line mo, China. Totoo naman yun eh. Because China was unable to prove by historic rights na talagang nasakop niya through the 9-dash line. Pero maliban doon, walang ginawa yung arbitral award eh. The arbitral tribunal did not adjudicate yung pamumosisyon nila sa mga features. Hindi naman niya sinabi, China, umalis ka na dyan sa mga inoccupy mong features. Meron ba siya sinabing gano'n? Wala po. And China continues to occupy those features. Meron din tayo. Meron din ang Vietnam. Kaya po disputed ngayon eh. Kahit na po in-award ang West Philippine Sea o yung ating exclusive economic zone, it's still a disputable waters. Dahil nga, wala pa tayong coordinates na isasubmit na nire-require po sa atin. This is the whole point, Mr. President.
Yes. If we may be allowed. Mr. President, gaya ng nabanggit kanina ng ating mga kasamahan, noong 2024 na ipasa yung RA 12064 na at doon mismo dinebate Section 14, other maritime jurisdictions, the Philippines shall exercise all other maritime rights and jurisdictions in accordance with the UNCLOS, the South China Sea Arbitration, case number 2013-19, international law and other pertinent and regulations of the Philippines. Mr. President, we beg to disagree that the coordinates are not clear, that we have not been able to determine it. We have by law, we have by administrative order, and we have by the arbitral ruling. All these should suffice, Mr. President, for us to assert that China is illegally occupying parts of our exclusive economic zone and is claiming likewise 150,000 square kilometers of our continental shelf and 381,000 square kilometers of our EEZ. I mean, that should suffice for this, at least for this resolution to be passed. For the resolution that we are now tackling be adopted, Mr. President.
Mr. President,
In addition, if I may, the Kalayaan Group of Islands Kalayaan is a municipality of Palawan.
Pag-asa is a barangay.
Yes. And therefore, the exclusive economic zone as defined in UNCLOS provides that it is a sea area extending up to 200 nautical miles from a coastal state's baseline. So the baseline would be the Kalayaan group and 200 nautical miles from the Kalayaan group. So I do not see how the Kalayaan Islands is outside of our exclusive economic zone. I beg to disagree, Mr. President.
Just for the record, the Pag-asa Island is a barangay of the Kalayaan Island Group under the province of Palawan.
Yes. And it is 445 kilometers away from Puerto Princesa.
Mr. President, the problem is under Section 2 of Republic Act 12064, which defines the West Philippine Sea as follows. The maritime zones of the Philippines on the western side of the Philippine archipelago, including the Luzon Sea and the territorial seas of Bao de Masinloc and the maritime features of the Calayan Island Group, shall be collectively called the West Philippine Sea. What is the problem there, Mr. President? Yun nga po kasing Pag-asa Island at saka yung Parola Island, nakasama po ng KIG, ay labas po doon sa West Philippine Sea. At ito po ay blurred by the high seas that separate them from the rest of the Calayan Island Group. So let me show, pwede bang pakita yung isa pang mapa? Map number 1.
Uulitin.
Ayan po, Mr. President. This is a map produced by the US-funded think tank called National Bureau of Asian Research. Dito sa mapang ito po, the area that is shaded in deep yellow is the Philippine Territorial Sea, while the area shaded in light yellow is the Philippine Exclusive Economic Zone and Continental Shelf. The area shaded in blue is the high seas. On the map are small features around which circles have been drawn. Some features are inside the Philippine Exclusive Economic Zone, while others are in the high seas. The circles drawn around these features are the enclave territorial seas. The features and circles are in different colors to represent the state occupying them. The features occupied by the Philippines are in yellow. Diyan po makikita ninyo, Mr. President, meron po tayong occupied na features na talagang labas nga sa, kagaya ng binanggit natin kanina, labas sa ating exclusive economic zone. There are 4 features in yellow that are occupied by the Philippines but are in the high seas. Other features that are occupied by China and Vietnam that are in the high seas but they are also being claimed by the Philippines. Given the situation, how can we draw the meets and bounds of the Philippine West, the West Philippine Sea? Ito yung tinatanong ko kanina, kung gusto natin pong isama yung mga features which are outliers, meaning to say they are lying outside the exclusive economic zone, paano po tayong papayagan na gawin yun? May encroach po natin pati yung high seas. The UNCLOS, Mr. President, prohibits us from enclosing the high seas, and international tribunals have nullified boundaries that leapfrog. Hindi po natin sila pwedeng i-connecta. Kaya nga po, why even under Republic Act 12064, the limits of the West Philippine Sea cannot be drawn with precision. Yun po yung sinasabi natin. Hindi po natin magagamit yung mga batas na ginawa natin dahil meron pong problema. At makikita po ninyo yung mga features, for example, yung nandyan po sa loob ng ating West Philippine Sea. Makikita nyo yung mga circles in blue. These are occupied by other nations. Pero doon sa ating memorial na sinabit po sa arbitral tribunal, Mr. President, ang Pilipinas nag-agree na lahat po ng yan ay hindi na natin naaariin. Meaning to say, there will be reduction po yan sa ating West Philippine Sea. Ganun po, kinompromise natin eh. Basahin po natin yung award. So, hindi, ang dami pong nawawala sa West Philippine Sea natin.
Mr. President, if we may, the declaration under PD 1596 that the KIG is part of Philippine territory, PD 1596 and its validity was never put in issue in the arbitration case, and the tribunal did not have any jurisdiction to rule on its validity. In other words, this is outside the issue of the award. And if there are concerns about the validity of PD 1596 and the concerns that there are certain areas outside of what has been declared as our economic zone, although prior to that was declared part of Philippine territory, then let's have legislation, remedial legislation to amend, debate it. If the good senator believes that should be part of Philippine territory and would like to amend PD 1596 or affirm it, then let's debate it on the floor by way of proposed legislation. But in the context of the arbitral ruling, Mr. President, I will again point out that this debate, no matter how lengthy, will not change the ruling, which is in our favor. And therefore, we should defend and uphold it. Rather than going to a question of, wait, sandali lamang. Kasi yung arbitral ruling na yun, hindi sinama yung ilang mga nasa Kalayaan Island Group. So dapat, wag natin i-recognize yung award na yan. Hindi naman po tayo papayag dun. Hindi po ba?
Hindi po ganun ang punto natin, Mr. President. Kung sakaling tayo po ay may karapatan talaga at meron naman talaga tayong karapatan sa ating West Philippine Sea na sa ngayon ay ina-approximate nila na ito na nga yung ating exclusive economic zone, kinakailangan naman nating makita yung hangganan para sa ganoon maipagtanggol natin ang lahat ng saganang atin. Nagbabudget tayo, binibigyan natin ang ating Department of National Defense. Ang daming mga features na wala sa ating West Philippine Sea, na wala doon sa ating exclusive economic zone. Wala namang, nandun outliers po siyang ganoon. Pagkatapos, sinasabi ng 1596, atin yun, pero sabi ng arbitral tribunal, sabi ng award, sinabi na nga natin, paragraphs 573 to paragraphs 576, neither the Philippines nor China has the right to enclose that part of this Pratt list. Ibig sabihin, ninalipay niya po yun eh. So wala din yun eh. Kinakailangan nating itama lahat. Sangayon din sa UNCLOS na doon naman ay signatory tayo. Ito po yung kanina ko pa gustong ipaliwanag. Walang masama na yung ating saganang atin, pag-aari natin, madetermina natin. Halimbawa, binigyan tayo ng isang pag-aari, isang sukat ng lupa. Sinabi ng ating kaibigan, mula sa bundok na ito hanggang sa bundok na yun, sa iyo yan. Alam po ninyo, pag hindi natin natituluhan yan, nakuha yung kabuuan kung hanggang saan ang ating pag-aari, mahirapan lang tayo eh. Kaya po nagkakaroon tayo ng pag-aaway, ngayon lamang po nakikita na natin ang talagang pangangailangan na pag-aralan nating mabuti muna ito. Kesa sasabihin natin, gagawa ng halimbawa ng caricature ang isang Commodore natin na ilalagay niya sa nakakatuwa at pangit na itsura ang leader ng isang bansa. Imbes na yun ang gawin niya, siguro kinakailangan muna nating i-determine with precise precision at with coordinates para sa ganon, alam na natin, maiguguhit na natin, hindi lamang sa tayo lang ang nakakaalam ng ating West Philippine Sea, pati po doon sa S23. Ito po yung International Hydrographics Organization, matatala na yung ating West Philippine Sea. Magkakaroon na po ng coordinates, kagaya po ng pinakita natin kanina, ng South China Sea is designated by 6.1. Yun po sana yung dapat natin munang gawin.
Mr. President, just before...
With the permission of the two gentlemen, Senator
Before I yield the
Rizal-Ontiveros.
floor, Mr. President, to just
Yes,
very quickly.
yes,
Mr. President, yung binanggit ni Commodore Tariela, dinepensahan na ng ating Department of National Defense at ng Armed Forces of the Philippines. Tapos ngayon, narito tayo, may Senate resolution, sumasang-ayon at sinasang-ayunan ang posisyon ng Department of National Defense at ang Armed Forces of the Philippines sa mga bitiw na salita ni Commodore Tariela. Hindi ba dapat susugan natin at suportahan natin at we rally behind our armed forces, our Department of National Defense, rather than kowtow, not kowtow, but rather than give China the benefit of the doubt as regards their motivations in attacking one of our men in uniform? We have to defend and support the Department of National Defense and the Armed Forces of the Philippines. It's as simple as that, Mr. President.
Yes, with the permission of the two gentlemen. Senator Rizal-Ontiveros is recognized to interject.
Salamat, Mr. President. Sinusuportahan ko yung kahuling sinabi ni Senator Pangilinan. Dagdag pa po, ilang beses ko na rin po narinig mula sa Ginoo, mula sa Pampanga and Tarlac, yung di umano'y coordinates ng China sa South China Sea o ng 9-dash line. At ipinakita po kanina yung mapa ng International Hydrographic Organization. Sa research po, ang International Hydrographic Organization o IHO is a technical, not a political organization. And its map delineations do not constitute legal recognition of sovereignty such as China's 9-dash line. So ang ipinakita pong mapa kanina ng good gentleman, mapa ng IHO na may mga notation na 6.1, 6. Kung ano-ano pa, hindi po yan coordinates. Mga numero lamang sa mapa. Further po sa research, the 9-dash line representing China's expansive disputed territorial claims in the South China Sea has no official, fixed, or internationally recognized geographic coordinates. Kaya yung sinasabi pong may coordinates na ang China sa South China Sea, pati sa ating West Philippine Sea, na may coordinates sila sa 9-dash line, wala po. That U-shaped dotted line, which covers roughly 90% of the sea, is vaguely defined and can shift across maps. So ngayon pa lang po, i-disabuse na po natin ang ating kaisipan na may coordinates ang China dyan sa napakalawak na claims niya, pati sa ating karagatan. Salamat, Mr.
I'm not very
President.
sure about this, but the discussion on the floor may have some national security implication. So the same concern was expressed by no less than the Senate President. So yes, Mr. Senate President.
Yes, you're right. We are discussing a resolution which expresses the sense of the Senate supposed to be. The debate that I have been listening to is fine if we're debating on a piece of legislation addressing this, no, but it's not. So I'm worried that we are already trampling over issues of national security, and that is my question, Mr. President. What do you think?
I rise today on a matter of personal and collective privilege, not to inflame passions, not to score partisan points, and certainly not to advance the interest of any foreign power, but to speak on a principle that lies at the heart of good governance, professionalism in public service. Recent public controversy has involved a senior spokesperson of the Philippine Coast Guard, particularly his lecture at the La Salle University, where a caricature of Chinese President Xi Jinping was reportedly displayed in discussing West Philippine Sea issues. Let me state clearly, this is not a defense of China, nor a retreat from our sovereign rights. This is an honest call for discipline, propriety, and adherence to the standards required of public officials under our laws. Republic Act 6713, the Code of Conduct and Ethical Standards of Public Officials and Employees, provides clear guidance. Among its provisions, Section 2 emphasizes public officials shall always be accountable to the people and shall discharge their duties with utmost responsibility, integrity, competence, and loyalty. Section 4A requires that officials shall at all times uphold public interest over personal interest. Section 4B mandates that public officials shall perform and discharge their duties with the highest degree of excellence, professionalism, intelligence, and skill. Professionalism under the law is more than zeal. It demands sound judgment, measured language, and awareness of consequences, especially when the words come from those who represent the state. Patriotism is not measured by how loudly we speak, but how responsibly we act. Madam Speaker, context matters. When an ordinary citizen uses satire or caricature, it may be dismissed as opinion. When a scholar does so, it may fall under academic critique. But when a government spokesperson vested with authority uses such imaginary, particularly of a foreign head of state, the speech acquires state-level significance, whether intended or not. Perception in diplomacy can be as consequential as intent. One ill-considered act may shift attention from principles to personal controversies, undermining state's credibility. When a public official speaks, he does not speak for himself alone. He speaks with the authority of the state, and that authority must be exercised with discipline. We all agree on defending Philippine sovereignty, asserting our rights under the 2016 Arbitral Award, and resisting unlawful actions in our waters. But patriotism must be anchored in discipline. The strength of our position comes not from mockery, but from, number one, international law, number two, consistency of state policy, and number three, institutional credibility. The moment public officials act outside the bounds of professional restraint, they risk weakening the very cause they intend to protect. Patriotism is courage, yes, but discipline and professionalism are its true measure. Madam Speaker, our constitutional system defines roles for a reason. The Philippine Coast Guard enforces maritime law and safeguards our waters. The Department of National Defense ensures security. The Department of Foreign Affairs is mandated to conduct diplomacy, manage protests, and safeguard our national interests abroad. When officials outside the DFA engage in rhetoric with diplomatic consequences, they blur institutional lines, create confusion, and risk sending mixed signals about Philippine policy. Diplomacy is not waged in lecture halls or on social media. It is conducted through measured channels, guided by law and executed by those entrusted with the responsibility to represent the nation. This is not a challenge to academic freedom. Our universities must remain spaces for debate. However, academic freedom does not convert a government official into a private citizen. A spokesperson of a uniformed service carries the weight of the state. Freedom of expression must be exercised in accordance with ethical obligations of public office, as required by Republic Act 6713. Let me stress, no one here questions the sincerity of the official involved, nor do we question the legitimacy of grievances in the West Philippine Sea. What is at issue is conduct, not conviction, method, not message. Public service is a trust, and trust demands restraint, discretion, and professionalism. Therefore, I respectfully call for, number one, reaffirmation of code of conduct, particularly in the principle of professionalism for all public officials engaged in public communications. Number two, clear executive guidelines on how spokespersons and uniformed personnel interact with academic institutions and public forums or fora on sensitive foreign policy matters. And number three, recognition that diplomatic engagement is the responsibility of the Department of Foreign Affairs, which alone is empowered to manage international relations in a disciplined, consistent manner. This is not about silencing voices. It is about aligning voices, ensuring that the Philippines speaks clearly, credibly, and with dignity. Madam Speaker, in moments of heightened tension, the measure of a nation is not only its courage, but its composure. Let us show the world that the Philippines is resolute but responsible, brave but disciplined, firm in our sovereignty but principled in conduct. Let us defend our sovereignty not only with courage but with character, discipline, and professionalism, the true markers of a republic that commands respect. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Madam
Thank
Speaker,
you.
Madam Speaker,
Majority Leader.
can I propose questions to the Honorable Minority Leader?
Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move to recognize the Honorable Rufus Rodriguez for his interpellation.
The Honorable Rufus Rodriguez is recognized for his interpellation.
Thank you. Once again, I'd like to ask our Minority Leader whether he would be amenable to receive some interventions from this representation.
Gladly, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker, is the gentleman referring to the spokesman of the Philippine Coast Guard, J. Tariela, in his speech?
That's correct, Madam Speaker.
You admit it is J. Tariela. You have not mentioned his name, correct?
I do not know.
But it's very clear that is Madam Chair, Madam Speaker. I am insulted that a member of this Congress will stand up in favor of China. Madam Speaker, J. Tariela is doing his job as spokesman of the Philippine Coast Guard. Because the very reason why this spokesman has to move and act is because China has been violating the sovereign rights of the Filipino people, the Republic of the Philippines, for so many years, bombarding our vessels, now with water cannons, lasering our officials and our Coast Guard. So therefore, where are we for? For whom are we for? I'd like to ask the Honorable Minority Leader, because I am really, at this point, I cannot understand why we are protecting China, who has been the cause of all this aggression. One of our Coast Guard lost his finger. And then here we come in this House to question that act of having caricature. China has caricatured so many of our leaders, Madam Chair. It has hired, Madam Chair, trolls. It has hired traitors in this country, Filipinos, paid for. So therefore, Madam Chair, I would like to state here, I'd like to ask again, are you still insisting, Minority Leader, that our spokesman of the Philippine Coast Guard has violated the Code of Conduct of Public Officials? Because I would like you to read each one of what you have cited, and I will show that he has complied with all the laws of our country. In his heart and mind, it is to protect the Republic of the Philippines. For who will protect us? Will it be the Chinese? Of course not. It will have to be our people. It will have to be our officials. It will have to be the Coast Guard. They are the ones in charge of the integrity and sovereignty of our people, of our own seas. Madam Chair, the UNCLOS is very clear and decided already, Madam Speaker, by the Arbitral Tribunal Award of July 12, 2016. All the 7 points of China were all debunked by the Hague Arbitral Tribunal. The 9-dash line is illegal. All the developments are illegal. And yet I hear somebody from this August chamber would question our official and favor China. The Senate already passed a resolution, 15 of them, that supports, our stand, Madam Chair, the stand of J. Tariela, whom we should support. And that is why I cannot accept this. I cannot accept this as a Filipino. Patriotism includes hitting China because they're the ones hitting us. We have to protect ourselves in defense of our country. Article 1 of the Constitution, Madam Speaker, is on national territory that is being threatened by China. So therefore, I'd like to ask, because I would like him to now again state the code of conduct, and I'm going to therefore debate with the Minority Leader that there is no violation at all of Tariela. It is the Chinese government with presidency violating everything that we have, from the Constitution to all the laws and international law.
Madam Speaker, precisely this privileged speech, so that we shall know, did the Department of Foreign Affairs, who is the department entrusted with the authority to deliver our messages to this country, authorized J. Tariela. And I am not defending China, Madam Speaker. As I said in my speech, what I am saying is that we have to act with professionalism, discipline, and manage our international relations properly, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker, the DFA has its functions. The Philippine Coast Guard, with its spokesman, has its functions. And certainly, the agency affected by this is the Philippine Coast Guard, because they protect all our coast and our seas. We therefore cannot say that the DFA, according to a senator, he has talked to the DFA. In fact, I'm going to call the DFA. Are you saying that J. Tariela did the wrong thing by coming out and protecting our country? Let us hear from the DFA. Because if they do that, they don't deserve to sit in the Department of Foreign Affairs. My goodness, since this last year, 200 plus protests, notes verbal, every day for more than 5 years, 365 days. The Chinese vessels are intruding in Scarborough Shoal, intruding in the Kalayaan Island Group, in all our 200-mile nautical zone, which is our exclusive economic zone under the UNCLOS and decided by the Arbitral Tribunal. So I'd like to, I have to react on this, Madam Chair. I hope the minority leader recants his speech. Because if not, then he, Madam Chair, he has therefore failed in his duty and his oath to this Congress, the representatives of the people, that we have to therefore agree with China's complaint, the complaint of that ambassador. Because now they are hurt because the truth is coming out and we have a strong spokesman. And so I hope the minority leader withdraws his statement. Otherwise, I will be the one to make sure that there will be an ethics probe on this. A congressman taking up the cudgels of our aggressor in the West Philippine Sea. Definitely. I'm going to file an ethics charge because he has failed in his duty to protect and defend the Constitution of the Philippines. Article 1 is national territory. So I now call, please withdraw that because otherwise there will be a charge. I'm going to file, Madam Chair, in his presence now because I cannot in conscience accept what he has said. We are all Filipinos. We took the oath to defend the Philippine Constitution, to obey the laws of the land, and a signatory to the United Nations Convention of the Law of the Sea. We are also obligated. So therefore, can be no compromise on this. We cannot compromise national security. Therefore, I would like the gentleman to withdraw his privileged speech.
Madam Speaker, ako po ay nire-request na mag-withdraw ng aking privilege speech. Hindi ko po i-withdraw po yan. Ito po ay aking personal na paniniwala sa mga nangyayari dahil tingnan mo yung umaabot na tayo sa napakataas na nasa Senado, marami ng issues. Lahat po ng batas na ipinasa natin dito sa Kongreso ay sinuportahan ko po. Ito lang, nakita na natin na sinabi mismo ng Presidente na yung pag-declare ng persona non grata umabot na sa pag-declare ng persona non grata ng ambassador ng China. Sinabi niya it is the last resort. Ibig sabihin, pero hindi ko importante na si J. Tariela lang ang sinasabi ko dito. Ang sinasabi ko po dito na magkaroon tayo ng isang direksyon na pinamumunuan ng Department of Foreign Affairs para maging tama yung approach natin, hindi tayo misunderstood.
Madam Speaker, the issue is not persona non grata. The issue is the statement and the caricatures of J. Tariela, the actions of the spokesman. And the issue is not persona non grata, and I agree with the President. But the issue that he is saying is that our own official committed violations of the Code of Conduct of Ethical Standards of Public Officials, which to me is really unfounded, baseless, and skewed towards the interests of the People's Republic of China.
Madam Speaker, hindi ko po sinabi na mismo siya ay nag-violate ng ating Code of Conduct. Ang sinasabi ko lang, let us observe our Code of Conduct of Code of Professional Ethics and Ethical Standards para hindi tayo sumabit sa mga ganitong problema at ma-directly supervise ng ating Department of Foreign Affairs ang mga pangyayari ito para hindi ito mamishandle. Madam Speaker, hindi po ako magkukulang sa pagmamahal sa aking bayan. Hindi po ako magkukulang para ipaglaban ang teritoryo ng Pilipinas. Mag-parehas tayo taga-Samar, gentleman from Cagayan de Oro, at ididipinsa ko po ang aking bansa. Pero nandito po ako in this August chamber bilang minority leader na kahit yun po ang pakiusap ko palagi sa minority. Kahit nagagalit po kayo, kahit anong sentimento nyo, iklaro nyo with professionalism ang sinasabi nyo para marinig tayo. Dahil pag sumisigaw tayo palagi, hindi po tayo maririnig. Madam Speaker, palagay ko, ang boses ko ay mas malaki sa boses ng gentleman from Cagayan de Oro.
Session suspended.
Pero nagsasalita po ng mahinahon po dito.